The movie begins with an introduction that highlights the importance of the ozone layer in protecting mankind. It explains that the coldest part of the land is not at the poles, but 56 kilometers above us, where temperatures can fall to minus 95 degrees. The thin layer of air, known as the ozone layer, has been the only thing protecting mankind from these extreme conditions. Jack is working on his computer when he receives a phone call from his friend who is monitoring the eclipse from another place. People are gathered to see the eclipse. Jack's ex-wife, Emma, calls him because he is late for their divorce meeting. Jack apologizes and explains he forgot about it due to something important. Alex is monitoring the temperature on a screen when a massive cold air wave descends from the sky outside. The temperature on the screen quickly drops, indicating a sudden and severe cold snap. Jack went to the lawyer's office for the meeting. Jack wants to fix things, but his new job in Beijing is causing strain on their relationship. Despite Jack's attempts to reconcile and promises to change, his ex-wife is firm in her decision to divorce. They scheduled another meeting, and he left. Jack returned home and found his daughter Naomi preparing to leave. He attempted to engage her in conversation, expressing regret for missing her birthday and promising a surprise. Naomi, however, was dismissive, expressing her awareness of the issues between her parents and criticizing Jack's prioritization of work over family. Jack is sleeping in his office when Zoe comes in with water and pills to wake him up. They start talking, but their conversation is interrupted by a phone call about the ship Alex was in. After the call, they rush to a scene. After receiving the results of the autopsy, Jack and Zoe visit the ship to investigate the incident. However, due to condensation, everything on the ship is wet, making it difficult for them to find any functional equipment or clues. They dried the hard drive and tried to find something. They saw a weather change, but most of the files were corrupted, so they couldn't get the entire thing. In the hospital, Emma shows Jack one of the crew members who died with ice crystal formation in the body, indicating they froze so rapidly they almost ruptured spontaneously. The cells were frozen between minus 60 and minus 75 degrees. Jack is on a call with his boss, Walter. Jack explains that the eclipse influenced the mesosphere, causing a temperature drop and increasing air density. The ozone layer, weakened by human pollution, cracked under atmospheric pressure, allowing cold air from the mesosphere to funnel down into the Pacific, forming a deadly cold wave. He suggests that this cold wave was cold enough to flash freeze a man and a ship, although it's still a theory. Walter, not satisfied with Jack's explanation, asks Jack to hand over his data so that they can organize a team to analyze it thoroughly. The Weather Institute detected a cold wave moving towards their coast. Jack went to meet with a guy from the rescue team, Brent. He discusses the incident and tells him the reason could be a crack in the ozone layer. Brent is hesitant to sound the alarm without concrete evidence and asks him to get something strong. Jack left, angry by his response. He then called Emma to warn her and to tell her that he is going to pick Naomi from school. Jack visited the school to find Naomi, but she wasn't there. He found her friend, who informed him of Naomi's whereabouts. Jack then drove to the location provided by her friend while attempting to call Naomi, but his calls went directly to voicemail. Naomi is at the beach with her friends and preparing to get into the water. While driving, Jack is on the phone with Zoe, who is monitoring the cold wave's progress using the space satellite that Jack set up before he left. She provides updates on the wave's location to keep Jack informed. Naomi and her friends are looking at the cold wave, trying to know what it is. Naomi is recording it. Jack reached the beach and warned Naomi and her friend Freddie that the cold wave would kill them. Freddie ran to the water to warn Jared, who was surfing. Jared tried to swim fast to escape, but the cold wave reached him and froze him. Jack screamed at Freddie to get away, but she didn't escape either. Jack and Naomi ran to the car and managed to escape before the wave reached them. Jack called Brent and informed him about the tragic incident at the beach. He warned Brent that the cold wave was heading towards the city. Brent assured Jack that he would notify the public about the impending danger. Emma went to pick up her parents to take them to the lab for safety. Meanwhile, Jack informed her that he was taking Naomi to the lab, but advised Emma to stay where she was with her parents as the cold wave was moving too fast for them to make it all the way to the lab. Brent called the Australian rescue and talked with Barker about the cold wave. Brent reports that the cold wave has reached them, with temperatures dropping to minus 60 degrees. In the news announcement, it was reported that an unexpected cold wave has reached the south coast of Tasmania and is expected to hit Hobart in about 2 hours. Tammy told Walter it is confirmed that the cold wave has reached Tasmania. As the cold wave approaches, panic spreads among the people. Everyone is rushing to buy heaters and other tools that can provide warmth. Students are seen running out of school. The cold wave reached the city, causing chaos and destruction. People began to die from the freezing temperatures. In a catastrophic turn of events, a plane exploded. Jack and Naomi reached the lab just seconds ahead of the cold wave, narrowly escaping its reach. They found Zoe there. In discussing the situation, Zoe remarked on the severity of the freezing fog, noting that it was -90 degrees. The cold wave reached Emma's parents' house, and amidst the chaos, someone knocked on the door, trying to escape the freezing fog. Emma opened the door and let the person in. They then tried to warm her up. Brent called to report on the situation amidst the cold wave. He explains that they were unprepared and are now sheltering 300 people, with 30 suffering severe frost damage. In the lab, Jack and Zoe are working to find a solution to the crisis. Jack suggests that the only way to stop the cold wave is by closing the hole in the ozone layer. He calls Walter to explain the method for closing the gap. Walter told him that they already have a plan to close the crack in the ozone layer. He told Jack they are planning on using 300 weather balloons filled with magnesium particles, which planes will ignite using missiles. The resulting explosions are intended to ionize the ozone and close the crack, a collaborative effort between the US and Australia. However, Jack told him that it wouldn't work. Walter hung up on him, not willing to take Jack's suggestion. Zoe asked Jack what they should do next. Jack responded that they would continue with their simulation to close the crack in the ozone layer, even without the support of ICRO. In the lab, Jack and Zoe discovered that additional ripples are forming in the ozone layer because of the first ripple. Emma's father, Harold, is trying to communicate with a girl he found on the radio named Drew Wilson from the USA. Harold informs her about the ice-cold situation in Australia. Barker informed Walter that the weather balloons filled with magnesium, intended for closing the ozone crack, are ready for distribution. The cold wave reached the Australian Emergency Response Centre, causing panic among the employees. However, Barker assured them that they are safe inside the centre. Walter and Tammy are debating whether to involve Jack in their plan to address the cold wave crisis. At the Air Force Base in Queensland, Australia, preparations are underway to launch the balloons. Barker calls James to check on the progress. James informs him that the operation is ongoing and that they have 10 balloons ready to launch. Barker is notified that a cold wave has been detected 80 kilometers from the USS Adams. In response to the emergency, Barker gives orders to contact the USS Adams and instructs them to proceed with the balloon launch immediately. Tammy called Jack to inform him that they had to accelerate the balloon launch due to the urgency of the situation. Jack asked if they could monitor the progress of the project, and Tammy assured him that she would send him a link to do so. The planes assigned to shoot the missiles at the balloons reached their positions and successfully fired the missiles. The aim was to burst the balloons, which would release the magnesium particles to close the crack in the ozone layer. Walter admitted that the detonation had barely affected the ozone crack, possibly because the spread was too far stretched. He acknowledged that the mission had failed and that they still couldn't contact the USS Adams. Walter stated that they would discuss the next steps soon and instructed everyone to maintain emergency response and protect the population in the meantime. Walter contacted Jack and asked him what he needed to address the crisis. Jack requested rockets with ammonium nitrate, explaining that they would use the lightning activity in the mesosphere to ignite the ammonium cloud, triggering a chain reaction to heal the ozone layer naturally. Walter expressed regret that Jack wasn't involved from the start, but Jack brushed it off. While Jack was working on the solution for the ozone layer, Zoe suddenly collapsed. Jack realized that she hadn't taken her insulin for 2 days. He decided to go to town to get her insulin, despite Zoe's concern about leaving the calculations unfinished. Jack reassured her that the computer would finish the simulation and they couldn't do more at the moment. Jack got into his car and drove away. Walter called Jack, but Naomi picked up the phone. He asked where Jack was, and Naomi informed him that Jack had gone out to get Zoe's insulin. Walter urgently requested the calculations, explaining that they couldn't wait because new cracks had appeared over the US, and if they reached the firing site, it would be too late. Naomi noticed that the computer simulation had finished, but she suggested waiting for Jack to return. Walter insisted on needing the calculations immediately due to the critical situation. Jack reached the pharmacy and went inside to fetch the insulin. However, the owner, thinking Jack was trespassing, came from behind to attack him with a piece of wood. Jack saw him in time and managed to disarm him, explaining that he just needed insulin for a medical emergency. While Naomi was uploading the files for Walter, the power got disconnected before the upload could be completed, interrupting the process. Emma was trying to comfort a woman who had come to the shelter seeking refuge from the cold wave. As she was talking to her, the woman tragically passed away. Tammy informed Walter that another hole had been created in the ozone layer. Jack returned with the insulin and administered it to Zoe. Naomi informed him that she had been trying to send the data to Walter, but the generator stopped before she could complete the transmission. Jack successfully fixed the generator, allowing Walter to receive the data. The missiles were then launched. Everyone is waiting in terror, hoping that the plan will work and the crisis crisis will be averted. Walter received an update with the latest figures, indicating that the ozone level had risen by 80%. He announced that the detonation was a success, and the crack in the ozone layer had begun to close. Jack and Naomi arrived at Emma's parents' home, where Jack shared with Emma that it would take 2 weeks for his resignation to be accepted, but he was determined to resign. Emma responded by saying she would give him those 2 weeks. They then shared a kiss, suggesting a hopeful future for their relationship. This moment provided a sense of closure and optimism as the story came to an end. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.